In April 2026, the rap game got hit with one of the craziest headlines in years, as the feds would announce they had arrested the rapper Pooh Shiesty, who was arguably the biggest rapper to come out of Memphis since Young Dolph. He was arrested alongside his own father and his close friend and fellow rapper Big 30, as well as a handful of other members from his infamous Chopper Gang street clique, and they were being accused of a crazy crime, allegedly kidnapping and robbing at gunpoint numerous victims at a music studio in Dallas. But what made this case truly explosive was the identity of one of the victims. None other than the trap god himself, Atlanta rap legend Gucci Mane, and the very person that Pooh Shiesty was signed to under his 1017 label. The feds would claim that the whole motive of the incident was to get Pooh Shiesty freed from his contract with Gucci, allegedly sticking him up at gunpoint and making him sign away his rights, like Suge Knight did to Eazy-E back in the day. Now, this was shocking for many people, but fans of Pooh Shiesty might not have really been that surprised, because after all, Pooh Shiesty had previously made numerous headlines for crashing out in a similar fashion, with at least 2 instances of him pulling guns on people and opening fire since breaking into the rap game in the early 2020s. The first incident involved a shooting and a robbery of 2 guys over some dope and a pair of sneakers, and the second incident involved Shiesty allegedly shooting a security guard at a fully packed strip club during what was supposed to be his own performance. I mean, Pooh Shiesty was so prolific as a ski mask wearing robber, the one whole ski mask ended up being known as a Shiesty all around the world. So in a lot of ways, it wasn't really a surprise that this certified crash out specialist decided to pull off yet another one of his signature moves that had previously landed him in federal prison for years. But the craziest thing of all was that Pooh Shiesty apparently did this robbery after having only walked out of the feds 6 months before, and still while on an ankle monitor, all while his PO was calling him telling him to go back to the house. After getting his freedom back in October of 2025, Pooh Shiesty, at least for a minute, was looking like the biggest hope that the rap game had, dropping his mega hit FDO, aka First Day Out, and shooting straight up the charts like he never left, with him actually at one point being the only rapper in the top 20 Billboard charts. He had come out of jail with a rare second chance not only to change his own life, but the lives of everyone around him, and an opportunity to build genuine generational wealth, an opportunity that most rappers can only dream of. But unfortunately, it seems like you can take a Shiesty rapper out the streets, but you can't take the Shiesty streets out of the rapper. But with all of this going on, it raises one very difficult question to answer. What was it that made Pooh Shiesty so upset, so mad, so greedy that he was willing to throw away his whole life at the peak of his opportunity? Now, the obvious answer would be just straight greed, with Pooh Shiesty's contract with Gucci Mane that he had signed at the very beginning of his rap career, way before he had a chance to see how popular his music would actually become, ultimately left him getting a smaller share of the millions he was making than he would if he was independent. But in reality, the recording contract splits might only be the tip of the iceberg, because when you look really deep into the lives of Pooh Shiesty and those around him, there seems to be a much deeper story under the surface. Because for years, him and his crew have been involved in a very complicated and very dangerous world where rap industry connections also connect to local gang rivalries in numerous cities. And it might just be some of these overlaps between the rap industry and street gangs that could truly explain why Pooh Shiesty might have just thrown his whole life away for good. So in this video, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the treacherous world of the Memphis gang scenes and the rap industry that seems to control who gets robbed, who gets rich, and who lives and who dies.
To them racks, get to that money, I wanna be ballin'. If you fall and break your back, don't worry, you can call Morgan and Morgan. If you've had serious damage to your body or internal organs, and you know it wasn't your fault, then you might have a case, you really might wanna call them. If you're hurt by someone else's negligence, you deserve to be paid 35 years of results, so you can trust them with your case. America's largest injury law firm, but not all law firms are built the same. Don't pick wrong, it's a big mistake. Get the wrong law firm and you're out the game. They got more than 1,000 lawyers, so you know that they're ready for battle. With 100 offices nationwide, so take them a case to tackle. They recovered over 30 billion bucks for all their clients, and the fee is free unless you win, so you might wanna try them. I wanna get to them racks, get to that money, I wanna be ballin'. If you fall and break your back, don't worry, you can call Morgan and Morgan. If you've had serious damage to your body or internal organs, and you know it wasn't your fault, then you might have a case, you really might wanna call them. You can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at www.forthepeople.com/traplawross. Link in description, or you can scan the QR code on screen using your phone camera. Thanks Morgan & Morgan, back to the video.
Content warning. This video is about a sensitive topic involving loss of life. We've removed any graphic content to comply with YouTube's guidelines. We aim to provide informative, factual journalism on a tragic event in the public interest that does not dismiss its seriousness. All clips are used under the doctrine of fair use for news reporting and analysis. Some points made in this video are opinions and theories. I am not responsible for third-party information. If you want to watch my videos uncut and extended, go to patreon.com/traplawross, where you can get those for just $2. Also, you can now watch my new drops on Spotify, so go search me there. Here's the video. In order to understand all of the complex gang and music history connections behind Pooh Shiesty, we've got to go all the way back to the start. On the 8th of November 1999, that's when Pooh Shiesty, real name Lontrell Williams Jr., was born in Memphis, Tennessee. And it would be here that he would spend much of his early life growing up in the Cane Creek apartments in South Memphis, not far from the Castalia Heights neighborhood where another Memphis rap sensation, Young Dolph, actually hailed from. But Pooh Shiesty would not be the first rapper in his family. Actually, his father, Lontrell Williams Sr., would also make music under the rap name Mob Boss, and even had his own record label Mob Ties Records. But much like his son later on, Mob Boss would eventually find himself caught up in repeated legal troubles too, each time ending up behind bars and putting his rap career on hold. So clearly, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. In fact, Shiesty's father's criminal history stretches all the way back to at least the early 90s, when local news reported how he was arrested for a murder of an 18-year-old named Harold Williams while he was only 15. Due to his extremely young age, it's not clear exactly what happened to these murder charges, but in the following years, Pooh Shiesty's father's name would keep popping up in local news in relation to various serious crimes. Already the following year in 1993, he would allegedly accidentally shoot and kill his girlfriend while toying around with his gun, ultimately getting charged with criminally negligent homicide. This was followed by drug and gun charges in 1999, the very same year that Pooh Shiesty was born, along with assault charges in 2002, and then in 2004, his name was once again connected to a murder case as local radio personality Rebecca Glan, known on air as Rebecca Fox, was brutally assaulted and murdered in her own apartment by a man named Stanley Andrews, who had then stolen Glan's cell phone and credit cards and allegedly given them to none other than Pooh Shiesty Sr., along with another woman named Marquita Thomas. Somehow, Shiesty's dad would seemingly always end up getting away with a rather light sentence, and there might well be a good reason for this, which we'll discuss later. According to the paperwork, he would only receive a 1-year sentence in the county workhouse in 2006, which was immediately suspended with him being placed on supervised probation. Now, it's hard not to notice the parallels between father and son, with both Pooh Shiesty and his pops seemingly unable to stay out of legal trouble for decades. However, in Shiesty Sr.'s case, financial pressures likely played a serious role, as he was never able to take his rap career to the next level like his son. Already the very next year, in 2007, he ended up getting caught inside a trap house where police recovered more than 3 pounds of cocaine, nearly 5 pounds of Mary Jane, and close to 100 e-pills, crack, a pistol, and over 11 grand in cash. The case, combined with his earlier convictions, seemed to finally land Shiesty Sr., aka Mob Boss, some real prison time, with this being marked by a farewell bash held in his honor in April 2010 before he seemingly went on to serve his sentence. According to court documents, Shiesty Sr. was the primary custodial parent to his son, and while he had been unable to stay away from the life of crime, he had seemingly tried his best in raising a young Pooh Shiesty, with Instagram lives from years later between the two showing just how close their bond was as a father and son.
CEO got on there.
I just went and bought me a new Hey, I see y'all doing all this stunning on the camera, man.
My poppy was one time, CEO. One time. We didn't have shit like this just to be on our head. Headache.
Come on now, you know how we came out.
Oh, my son. Oh, yeah. Come on.
We
Y'all about to put that little bit.
But now, with his dad in prison, Pooh Shiesty had to move out of Memphis and go and live with his mother in the city of Pflugerville, Texas, a suburb of the larger Austin Round Rock metropolitan area. This would have been a much calmer surrounding for a child to grow up in than the hoods of South Memphis, but this would only last for a couple of years when eventually his father was released again, and Shiesty would once again move back to his original stomping grounds. It was likely around this time that Shiesty also begun getting involved in street gangs. He would later claim on social media that he was already repping his own gang as early as 6th grade, called the Chopper Gang Military. Around this period, Shiesty, or Lontrell, would also pick up the nickname that would later become his rap alias. This nickname was given to him by his older brother, Terrence Henderson, aka T to P, a nickname that, according to Shiesty himself, reflected the lifestyle he was already living at that point, suggesting that even at a young age, he wasn't afraid to snake or cross people whenever it would benefit him.
How did I get my name Pooh Shiesty? From my brother T to P, because of my lifestyle. Like, that what was going on. They called me that, but he stamped it Pooh Shiesty like this your name.
But while Shiesty had allegedly come up with the Chopper Gang moniker as early as 6th grade, the first traces of his gang involvement that still exist online today seem to appear around 2014 when he was just 14 years old, as he began repping a new clique known as OLG or OG Lump Gang. Shiesty at the time went on Facebook by another nickname, Pooh Bezel OLG Williams. OLG was named after a 16-year-old named Myron Armstrong Jr., better known in the streets of South Memphis as OG Lump or OG Lil Lump. He would be killed in a February 2014 double shooting in the Orange Mound neighborhood. OG Lump had been a highly respected youngster in South Memphis with close ties to members across several well-known gangs that would later play key roles in Memphis trap lore. This includes the gang Trula Mafia, whose members allegedly killed Young Dolph many years later, as well as the Young Mob, whose members would allegedly play a key role in the wave of revenge killings that followed Dolph's murder, as well as another crew called GSM, aka Goon Squad Mafia. They'd be represented by Young Dolph's close friend and artist Key Glock, who would even be seen paying tribute to OG Lump by repping #OLG in his early YouTube videos. One reason why OG Lump was so respected in South Memphis was because of his alleged connections to the city's underworld, and as someone close to him would later claim on social media, OG Lump had made himself a multi-millionaire by the time he was killed at just 16. So in 2016, Shiesty would experience another major loss as his close friend, 19-year-old Montrell Crucher, aka Trey Day or Castellia Kitchen, would be shot and killed in January near the corner of Summer Avenue and Hudson. Trey Day's death had a huge negative impact on Pooh Shiesty, who would often reminisce about him on social media, even writing a post every single year following his death where he would cryptically reminisce about a mission that he was supposed to do with Trey, this mission seemingly becoming Trey's downfall. He would seem to blame himself and explain how it would have been a different situation if Shiesty had been there with him. Around this same time, you can increasingly see Shiesty and his friends beginning to rep the Chopper Gang crew, this time without the word military at the end. And soon, the Chopper Gang would also begin to rep the number 375, with each digit matching the letters CGE in the alphabet, these three letters standing for Chopper Gang Entertainment. As Shiesty and his friends began focusing on music around 2017, that decision would eventually take them further than any of them could have possibly imagined, going from youngsters coming out of the middle of a Memphis war zone to doing business with some of the most famous rappers to ever come out of America. From the beginning, it seems that Pooh Shiesty and his friends were clearly influenced by the old rap of their hometown of Memphis, with dark horror movie inspired beats combined with fast and aggressive flows. Sometimes they would even use samples taken directly from pioneers of Memphis rap like the 3-6 Mafia, with this formula playing out like clockwork and leading to a lot of fast motion amongst the group. As early as October 2018, one of their first music videos for the song Breaking News, which had Pooh Shiesty and his friends rapping over a beat inspired by the iconic Halloween horror movie theme song. That track quickly picked up a local buzz in Memphis, and in the music video filmed right in front of the Cane Creek apartments, Pooh Shiesty can be seen holding a Draco or two as he opens his verse with some very telling lyrics, rapping about earning the name Shiesty through doing robberies, and also referencing making the news for shooting someone with a Draco and describing himself as someone who can't be trusted and promising that he'll snake you. Another rapper in Pooh Shiesty's circle who showed a lot of potential from early on was his good friend Big 30, who repped both Chopper Gang and another gang known as KSBG or Not That Gang. Their main territory was at the New Horizon Apartments, formerly known as the King Gate Apartments, located about a 15-minute drive south from Shiesty's Cane Creek Apartments. But besides Big 30, this gang has included many other well-known rappers such as Cheese Dollar and Big Nooski, who would both unfortunately be killed as part of a huge Memphis gang war that allegedly was launched after the murder of Young Dolph, with these murders even possibly playing a role in why Shiesty has once again found himself in jail, something we'll get into in more detail later. But Shiesty and Big 30 were also close with another very popular rapper from Memphis, Big Scar, real name Alexander Woods, who repped a gang called Double R, standing for Rich and Ruthless. With Shiesty and Big Scar, their relationship went deeper than actual friendship because they were actually blood cousins.
I ain't know. You props.
They know that.
Yeah,
they
props.
Know
I know props out here, you know.
I ain't gonna lie to y'all. We ain't got a props to crop out here. We real, we slug. Gonna die. Gonna die, and I got one in the head. 300.
Them blanks,
on God,
man.
die.
Them blanks, man. I ain't talking about none. Them blanks, these blanks.
Hey, Pooh, what you say? See y'all.
Roll out the head, man.
It's the beam, come.
Yeah, what's going on? Chopper Gang. Yeah.
Black, we smoking fatties out here.
Yeah.
Double R gang, man. Chopper gang.
But while all these crews were increasingly focusing on music, the streets would keep taking away their friends. And almost exactly 1 month before Shiesty and his friends would release their first hit, Breaking News, a beloved Double R member called 2-3, real name Kalitri Boone, was shot and killed together with his father and a third man after a fight between two groups would escalate into a shooting at the Chopper Gang's hood in the Cane Creek Apartments. But despite the mounting losses that undoubtedly took a toll on Shiesty and his friends, they would stay focused on their music dreams, pushing out song after song, and a couple of years later, Shiesty and his cousin Big Scar would end up having a surprisingly similar career trajectory, as they would both end up getting signed to the legendary Atlanta rapper Gucci Mane's 1017 record label in 2020. And that year, both of their careers would blow up to the next level as they would push out music independently as well as together, along with Gucci Mane, and all of these videos now have tens of millions of views on YouTube, while Shiesty would also drop numerous hit songs with his friend Big 30, who at this point had already signed a deal with Memphis rapper Moneybagg Yo and his Bread Gang Entertainment. However, around this time, an awkward tension began to surface between Big 30 and Gucci Mane. At one point, Big 30 would post a photo of himself with Shiesty and Gucci captioned 375-1017, essentially meaning a link up between Chopper Gang and Gucci's 1017. But for whatever reason, Gucci Mane didn't seem to appreciate the gesture. He would jump into the comments with a surprisingly aggressive response, calling the post cap and telling Big 30 to stop posting him, insisting they had only met once. According to some rumors, this beef actually came from the fact that Gucci would have wanted to sign Big 30 but couldn't due to him already having a deal with Moneybagg Yo.
I feel like, Gucci bipolar, you know what I'm saying? He probably did really want to sign 30 because, he would have hit the jackpot if he would have got 30 and Shiesty, you know what I'm saying, on his team. But, 30 was already signed the bag, so you can't expect him to be like, man, you bag, I'm gonna go sign to Gucci just because Gucci want me to sign to him.
However, years later, during a No Jumper interview, Big 30 would address the situation, downplaying it as nothing more than a misunderstanding and claiming that Gucci Mane had actually apologized and that the issue had been resolved a long time ago.
And one thing that did go viral with Gucci, how did you feel? Like, I think you had posted a picture of Gucci and then Gucci was like, I met you one time or something. How did you feel when he had said that? And then what was your relationship like now?
I mean, as soon as I seen this, threw us out, because it was me and Shiesty the first time meeting him. So we both hit him like, damn, what's up with this dude up? You know what I'm saying? And I ain't gonna talk about what we said in the message.
Yeah.
But long story short, Gucci was like, man, I was tripping, I'm gonna fix it. Who did that, bam, man? He flew out to Miami, did free song, free video with him, you know what I'm saying? Apologize like a man, you know what I'm saying?
But whatever the truth may be, this will be the first time that any kind of tension could be seen between Gucci and the other young rappers from Memphis. But by and large, rap industry beefs were probably the last thing on their mind at the time, because while Pooh Shiesty and his friends' music careers were skyrocketing, they would remain deeply invested in the Memphis street politics and petty local beefs. In July 2020, Shiesty was seen going back and forth with fellow Memphis rapper Big Boogie, who reps a gang called Red Rum or R4L out of North Memphis. At this point, it's hard to even pinpoint what ultimately sparked the beef between Boogie and Shiesty, but by some accounts, it started over something as trivial as Shiesty seeing a younger guy dissing him and Chopper Gang on social media, only to later find out that the kid was tied to Big Boogie's Red Rum crew. Meanwhile, Boogie would respond by implying that Shiesty was just creating drama because he had wanted a feature from him. However, there were also rap industry rivalries playing out in the background too, as Big Boogie was getting signed to the rapper Yo Gotti's CMG label, with the Memphis bred Yo Gotti famously having a very long friends-turned-enemies beef with Gucci Mane, whose label that Shiesty was now repping. Moreover, the beef was likely at least in part fueled by a larger divide in the Memphis gang scene that had been simmering for years, if not decades at this point, as tensions between gangs from North Memphis and Shiesty's South Memphis would run deeper than anyone could have possibly imagined. But whatever the case, it didn't take long before Shiesty jumped on Facebook Live to go off on Boogie, warning that he was ready to pull up and at the very least put hands on him, while adding that he had never liked the Red Rum set, implying that there were indeed deeper street-related matters behind the beef.
I can't beef. Listen, all right, let me clear this up though. Ain't no beef, y'all. Don't think we beefing. This a barber, y'all. This man was just cutting her in jail. Ain't no beef, but why you say something back? What? A feature? A feature? A feature? Man, you can't pay for a feature right now. Mom, you can't pay for one of my features, girl. You can't pay for one of my features, homie. Yeah, right now. It's good. You know I ain't like you. In the street, like, we ain't gonna talk about that on here, though. We ain't gonna talk about none in the streets on here. If you want a feature, just say that. I'll kill you. I'll shoot you in your head. Talk about a feature. I can't wait to see him. He ain't gonna say none of that. That man ain't gonna say none of that in real life, cuz. That Rudolph get this 30 bump. Call stats, but I gotta beat this. So I got to touch his up. Well, I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna blow your ass off, boy. I gotta blow his ass out just for that talking. Cause why you say something back, cuz? You did that out of your fans, cuz. You let your fans boot your head up, cuz. Nah, Hank got something to say to him. He was just locked up. Hank ain't gonna do nothing. Hank don't move no more. Hank don't move, shoot, nothing no more. He just watch everything. But me, I'ma beat your ass, shoot your ass, all this. Ain't nothing.
Boogie would soon respond, seemingly confused why Shiesty was going so hard at him, before saying that he wasn't even worried about him one bit.
Shiesty, bro. We ain't never had beef. We never had words and all that. Get tapped, man. I ain't getting tapped over here, bro. I ain't getting tapped, but a keyboard. Come on, man. Don't worry about nothing, bro. Where your beef come from, big bro? Oh, my bad. Let me fix that. Mr. Bad Guy, where your beef come from? We never had words, none of this, bro. We saw each other twice. Not even twice. Our word didn't even come up. Didn't come up. Come on now, my people, half of my people bump you. Come on now, bro, it ain't like this, ain't that, bro. Hey, bro. Then, bro, I seen you go off on a lot of people. That must be your favorite word or something. I'm not finna, look, what he talking about, what the negative about it. I'm not gonna with me, bro. I'm just gonna keep it at that, bro. Gonna me, bro. God bless you, little bro. I ain't worried about Mr. I ain't worried about nothing with no more.
But Shiesty would keep escalating the beef, even making a weed pack called Red Rum to imply that people from Boogie's Red Rum gang were about to die and that he was planning to literally smoke them. But unfortunately, this is exactly what ended up happening, because just days after the back and forth, Big Boogie's concert in North Mississippi was shot up, leaving 3 people injured and 2 dead. One of the dead victims was Boogie's friend, 19-year-old Jasmine Bradshaw, who had been on stage with him when the gunfire popped off. According to local police, the shooting was likely connected to a gang war in Memphis, and that would add a very dark undertone to something that Shiesty had said previously during that Facebook Live, where he had reminded Boogie that he had shows coming up, almost as if he was hinting that they were planning to go down there and shoot it up.
Look, yeah. Look, yeah. I ain't play with the dog like that, bro. How you play with it? You done cost yourself. You got shows in the head of you, bro. Then look,
However, in the end, the police would end up arresting Boogie's own friend called Rude Boy, real name Sheldon Gibbs, ultimately charging him with 2 first-degree murders for the death of Jasmine and the other person. But in reality, things might have been far more complicated than that, as Boogie responded to the arrest by posting a claim that the whole situation had been a setup while adding the caption "Free Rude," clearly not blaming his own friend for the killings. But whatever really happened, the beef between Shiesty and Boogie would soon die down, at least for a minute, as Shiesty and his friends were too busy getting in legal troubles elsewhere. On October the 1st, 2020, Big 30, real name Rodney Wright, was hit with felony drug charges in Brookside, Alabama, after being pulled over in the early morning hours. Cops would find $17,000 in cash, a loaded Glock 40, codeine cough syrup, and some weed in the car occupied by 30 and another man. But Big 30 wouldn't stay locked up for long, and soon after posting bail a few days later, he would mark his release the way rappers often do, dropping a celebratory music video for the track First Day Out, which now has over 14 million views. But while that was going on, Pooh Shiesty was also getting busy and racking up legal problems of his own. On Friday, October the 9th, 2020, he and 2 of his Chopper Gang affiliates were out in Florida, in the affluent city of Bay Harbor Islands just outside of Miami. He was enjoying his newfound success and living that flashy rapper lifestyle that came with it. But somewhere along the way, they set up a meeting with a couple of guys, supposedly to buy some high-end sneakers and some good old kush, and apparently also settling up an extension for a McLaren that Pooh Shiesty had rented through one of those people. But true to his name, at some point Shiesty seemingly decided that he wanted to get shiesty and take whatever he wanted without paying for it. And what happened next, unfortunately for him, was caught on nearby security cameras. These would capture the parties arriving at a parking lot before Shiesty and his partners would pull out guns, initiating a chaotic shootout where the 2 men that they came to meet would end up getting shot and hospitalized before Shiesty and his crew would flee the scene, all of this on camera. Shiesty even accidentally left a Louis Vuitton bag filled with $40,000 cash on the ground during the chaos. In many ways, this incident was kind of similar to Shiesty's most recent robbery of Gucci Mane, as the entire stick-up was so poorly planned and executed that it only took a few days for Shiesty and his partners to be arrested. But in this case, the pure irrationality of it all, a well-off rapper driving around with $40K in cash, suddenly deciding to commit an armed robbery in broad daylight, to the judge, it felt like there must have been some context missing, and that doubt would ultimately be enough for Pooh Shiesty's legal team to get him a bond.
According to the arrest warrant, while the alleged victims were talking with Williams, 2 men from the other black car approached them with guns, shooting at them, and Williams allegedly pointed an assault rifle at one of them.
He's kind of a well-known guy. He's #1 on Spotify right now. So we're to believe that he shows up to this alleged robbery scene to rob a person with his own $30,000 in cash from someone that he rented the car from.
The victims went to an urgent care on Biscayne Boulevard and later to Aventura Hospital for their gunshot wounds.
Something happened outside of the vehicle, which has nothing to do with my client.
He could face life in prison if convicted of armed robbery with a firearm, a charge that usually has no bond.
The story is laid out in the warrant, makes absolutely no sense in regards to my client.
I am okay setting a bond. I think this is missing a lot, and I don't generally set a bond in an armed robbery, but it really is nothing here showing me participated in this.
The judge set Williams' bond at $30,000.
After his release in November 2020, Shiesty's incredible run in the rap game would culminate in him releasing the hit song Back in Blood that featured Lil Durk. For Lil Durk, the song's release came at a difficult time. This was the very day that his artist and close friend King Von ended up getting killed, with Durk seemingly finding out the news of his death while on an IG Live debuting this song. Meanwhile, after the release of that track, which today has close to 500 million views on YouTube, he would unfortunately slip back into his old street ways as well, as his beefs in the streets of Memphis would continue, this time as a direct result of the popularity of his new hit song. Because the lyrics of Back in Blood weren't just generic boasting about doing gangster stuff and robbing people, they were allegedly directly referencing real events and dissing a real rival gang that they had robbed, known as EBG. This crew hail from North Memphis, an area known locally as Smoky City, particularly a street there called Crockett Place. On the song Back in Blood, when Shiesty raps about someone knowing who took something from them and taunting them, telling them to get it back in blood, he was allegedly directing that line at EBG, referencing an incident where Shiesty and other Chopper Gang members had allegedly robbed some EBG members of their guns. Members of EBG would later tell their version of events, claiming that Chopper Gang members had actually broken into a house and burgled them for some guns, even though Shiesty was making it seem like the guns had been robbed from right out of their hands directly. And they would also add that Shiesty hadn't even been part of that incident.
I know took off my bro. Broke in the house, man. You stole, man. You stole and you ain't even do it. I don't run up and say you act like they robbing. You home and vague, you steal. It's real, bro. That man ain't take nothing from us, bro. They got this twisted bad, you hear me? Like bad for real. I know sitting playing with us like this.
On the 15th of December 2020, Shiesty would post a cryptic Facebook update saying that if someone drops that song, they will die before their child is born. This would turn out to be a direct message to EBG rappers EBG E-Jizzle and Moo Slime, who had recorded a response to Shiesty's Back in Blood on the same beat, together with a music video. They would end up dropping that on New Year's Day before Pooh Shiesty had even had a chance to drop the official video for Back in Blood. In their music video, the EBG rappers can be seen wearing hoodies reading CGK, which stands for Chopper Gang Killers, while E-Jizzle begins the chorus with some heavy lyrics naming two Chopper Gang members who had supposedly participated in stealing the guns, Rico and Mitch, while adding that Rico had been killed while Mitch had gotten locked up. So EBG quite literally couldn't have even got Back in Blood if they tried. These lyrics would mean that the entire incident with the stolen guns had happened already some years ago, as Rico, or Co, real name Derrico Houston, had died already back in January 2019 when he was dropped off to the emergency room by two other men suffering from a fatal gunshot wound.
Memphis police say two men driving a red SUV left 20-year-old Derrico Houston outside the ER at St. Francis Hospital late Tuesday night. When doctors got him inside, they say he was already dead from a gunshot wound.
I'm trying to find out what happened to my son. He was a sweet, respectful young man, and I feel like his life was more valuable than what they thought it was worth. I just killing him and leaving him on the curb at the hospital like this.
Now, the police would later arrest none other than the Chopper Gang member Mitch, real name Mitchell Conrad, in relation to the shooting, and he would seemingly tell the police all about the incident that had led to Rico's death, claiming that it had been a sliding mission gone wrong. Pooh Shiesty, on the other hand, would later reference the incident in his 2019 song Day One, seemingly suggesting that Rico had called him 5 times before the shooting, and that even after it happened, Shiesty kept trying to call him back, unable to even come to terms with the fact that his friend was gone. So when Shiesty found out that the EBG rappers had dropped the video dissing his good friend, before he'd even had a chance to release the official song, he was seemingly furious, taking to Instagram to say it was the worst move EBG had ever made, while also adding how EBG had nothing to do with Rico's murder and that they had never done anything to them, while also adding that EBG couldn't say the same about Chopper Gang, and that he had personally taken the guns from EBG, not Rico and Mitch. Shiesty would also mention how he had already made 18 million views off of dissing EBG, and that tomorrow he would be dropping the full Back in Blood music video. And indeed, the very next day, Shiesty appeared to be forced into dropping that video, which had been filmed in Chicago with Lil Durk and featured not just the two of them, but also other major names like the Baton Rouge rapper Fredo Bang, along with several other members of Lil Durk's OTF crew, with Shiesty showing the world that he had the power of his music industry contacts and their alleged gangs behind him. Shiesty would also seemingly direct his label to copyright strike the EBG rapper's response video for using the same beat as Back in Blood, something that EBG members would explain during their interview with Street Juice TV.
Image. The rap industry is fake. Everybody, we all just, yeah.
They show you they just got our video took down.
Yeah. Rap industry is old.
However, Shiesty's label would seemingly eventually give up, as the video would keep getting re-uploaded multiple times, with one of these uploads still remaining online with 1.5 million views. But in the grand scheme of things, that was nothing for Shiesty, as his official video with Durk for Back in Blood would reportedly end up gaining 50 million views in just a month, and the video today about to touch 500 million views. So by February 2021, Pooh Shiesty had become the most streamed artist in the entire United States, with his breakout hit Back in Blood bringing millions of ears to his Shiesty Season mixtape that ended up making it to the top of Billboard's top rap albums chart and Spotify's top US albums chart. Shiesty's labels, including Gucci Mane's 1017 and their parent company Atlantic Records, would have Pooh Shiesty's face plastered on billboards all over major American cities, from Atlanta to even Toronto in Canada. And the record industry as a whole was overjoyed in celebrating this self-proclaimed shooter-turned-superstar. And to celebrate all the success, Gucci Mane would even surprise Shiesty with a brand new customized Jeep Trackhawk that he would gift to Shiesty while celebrating his own 41st birthday, with that gesture showing just how close Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty were at this point.
Come on, bro, you gotta get in with me, man. So look at your rim. Look at your rim now. Get your phone up. Put my phone on there. Give me a slime. Get my slime over here. Get my other phone, man. Yeah. Phones on that phone. Dude, here, bro. Give me light, bro.
But as you might expect by now, even with all of that success, Shiesty himself was still knees deep in various street beefs that he just couldn't let go of. After having had their Back in Blood remix taken down numerous times, Shiesty's ops from EBG had followed up with another diss track called Rumors by EBG E Jizzle. This would even feature a FaceTime cameo with Quando Rondo, intended as a subtle dig at Lil Durk, who had featured on Back in Blood, as Lil Durk's close friend and label mate King Von had been famously killed by a member of Quando Rondo's entourage. This was soon followed by another diss from E Jizzle and Moo Slime called Make It Clear, dropping in late January. However, around a week later on Super Bowl weekend 2021, it would seem that all of that dissing would end up backfiring, as rumors began spreading that an EBG member had gotten shot, with Shiesty quickly taking it to social media to mock the person repeatedly for allegedly being paralyzed in the incident. Meanwhile, Big 30 would also join in on the dissing. At first, the rumors were pointing towards the EBG rapper Moo Slime, but he would quickly shut those rumors down by posting a video of himself walking around his house to show that he was perfectly fine. Next, the rumors would have people focusing on the other rapper EBG E Jizzle, with even Pooh Shiesty himself posting how he was talking about Jizzle while adding that Moo Slime was going to be the next one. However, E Jizzle too would quickly shut down those rumors, at least partly, as he would admit that he had indeed been shot 3 times in the arm, but he was far from being paralyzed, and also claiming that the shooting had nothing to do with their ops. Jizzle was also quick to turn the incident into a promo opportunity, as he would release yet another diss song titled Paralyzed in late February, also continuing to taunt Shiesty on social media, this time hitting him where it really hurts, as he would make fun of Shiesty's brother T to P, who at the time was deep into a fight with brain cancer. Already in early March, local news would report how Shiesty's brother had lost the battle and passed away, with Shiesty posting a voice memo from none other than Drake, who had reached out to offer support after hearing the news.
I just want to send you my condolences, man, you know, and just let you know, like, the cycle of life is so unfair, you know. Sometimes it just hits us so hard, like, money can't change that, you know. Something I just went through too with one of my friends, but I just want you to know, G, like, you're doing something that a lot of people can't do, man. You're rising above and providing for your family, your friends with hard work. And, you know, it's something, just know that everybody, you know, got to witness, and I'm sure they're all just proud of you and have the most love for you in their heart, you know, and that's something that I just want you to know, you know, in a tough time like this, realize, you know, what you've been able to accomplish in this short time and what you still have in front of you. And I'm just wishing you strength, you know, in these times, man. And just enjoy the love from your people.
Losing his brother was undoubtedly impacting Shiesty hard, but meanwhile he had to continue pushing his music career, as he was quickly becoming the hottest new rapper out, with his streaming numbers rising by the tens of millions every month. And already later in March, he would continue touring, as well as dropping numerous popular songs and music videos like Ugly, featuring his label boss Gucci Mane, and So Icy Boys 3 with his cousin Big Scar, Gucci, and the 1017 rapper Fujiano. But it wouldn't take long for the trouble to find Shiesty again, and already a few months later, it was time to press that self-destruct button all over again, because during Memorial Day weekend 2021, Shiesty was performing at a strip club called King of Diamonds, located in his favorite city to crash out in, Miami, where he had previously done his infamous McLaren heist. During his show, Shiesty could be seen on stage with large stacks of cash bulging out of his front pockets, with this stack apparently amounting to tens of thousands of dollars. At one point of the show, someone in the crowd would seemingly manage to get hold of some of that cash, turning the tables on Pooh Shiesty and robbing him for once, leaving a frustrated Shiesty on stage looking around and furiously scrambling trying to find the money that had been taken from him. At a certain point, security began shoving people out of the way as Shiesty and his entourage pushed through the crowd looking for the money, but in that moment, a gunshot would suddenly ring out, sending everyone scattering for safety. Following the commotion, Shiesty was captured leaving the club, surrounded by security, while visibly holding a gun and seemingly wiping the prints off of it with a napkin. Meanwhile, the fans in the crowd would slowly gather themselves, still visibly shocked about what had just taken place.
They just shot and KO'd, yo.
Eventually, armed police would arrive to secure the venue as shaken patrons would gather outside in disbelief that Pooh Shiesty had just shot up his own show.
I don't know if we should move yet.
I just want to know what's going on outside. I
don't know what's going on outside, but they shot inside. Wait, why was he shooting?
Because they snatched all that money out of his pocket.
Oh.
Yeah, he had hundreds.
But my thing is, how did he have a gun in there? Who was he?
No, that's Pooh Shiesty. No.
Oh, that was Pooh Shiesty that started shooting? Oh, I didn't have my gun in there. I'm from Pittsburgh. Oh, Pooh Shiesty. They robbed Pooh Shiesty and he started shooting. Oh, I feel dumb for running now. He wasn't shooting at me.
In the immediate aftermath, Pooh Shiesty would take to social media to say that no one had taken anything from him. Sounds like cap. Honestly, this was just a wild thing to focus on at a moment like this, because clearly that was about to become the least of his problem. And it kind of also indicated that, maybe he might have had a motive to shoot up the club. So indeed, about a week later, Shiesty would ultimately turn himself in for the shooting. And after some legal back and forths, his bond would be denied by a judge who would reportedly state how there is not a chance that I am giving this kid a bond right now. But Shiesty's problems had only just begun, because at the end of June, the feds would sweep in, indicting him fully, along with two other Chopper Gang affiliates, Bobby Brown, aka Bankroll Bobby, and Jaden DeRosa, aka Dread Montana. They would be hit with numerous charges stemming from the 2020 McLaren robbery incident, and unfortunately for Shiesty, there would be no bond this time either.
And new at 5:30, rapper Pooh Shiesty will remain in jail. The 21-year-old rapper, whose legal name is Lontrell Williams, is being held without bond in a federal detention center. Williams is charged in connection with the shooting of two men while buying drugs last October. The indictment charges Williams and two others with one count of conspiring to possess firearms and robbery.
It was starting to seem like Shiesty had really fumbled the opportunity of a lifetime, but that wasn't all, because his arrest would also come right as the tensions in the Memphis rap scene and the streets were reaching the boiling point, and this would ultimately set the stage for what would soon erupt into one of the bloodiest wars the city of Memphis had seen in years. While Shiesty would remain locked up for the time being, the Memphis rap scene would go through some extremely turbulent times. However, still in October 2021, things had got off to a strong start for Shiesty and his friends, as his close friend and fellow rapper Big 30 secured a new deal with Moneybagg Yo's Bread Gang Entertainment, this time in partnership with Endless Entertainment and the major label Interscope Records, bringing the business partnership between Big 30 and Moneybagg Yo to lucrative new levels. But unfortunately, the very next month would usher in one of the darkest periods in the history of the Memphis rap scene, as the hometown icon, rapper Young Dolph, ended up getting gunned down in broad daylight inside of a cookie shop whilst back in the city doing charity work. Now, what exactly happened next I've covered in very deep detail in my video Murder Memphis, how 12 people died for Dolph, but for the purposes of this video, here's just a very rough summary. Young Dolph's murder would become connected to the South Memphis gang True La Mafia, particularly their very prominent member named Justin Johnson, who was better known in the streets as the rapper Straight Drop, along with his partner in crime Cornelius Smith. While unproven theories and rumors would link Yo Gotti's brother Big Juk and the True La Mafia affiliate Hernandez Govan to the plot, alleging that Juk actually put up the money for the hit while Govan acted as the mastermind organizing it, the alleged motive behind the hit was ultimately a long-standing beef between the two rappers and their labels, Young Dolph and his Paper Route Empire aka PRE, and Yo Gotti and his collective music group aka CMG. As covered in countless YouTube breakdowns, Young Dolph's death was followed by a deadly wave of violence, which was often framed as the Slide for Dolph campaign, where the growing body count was seen as a retaliation in his honor. But in reality, what followed ran far deeper than simple revenge for Young Dolph. It was years of tension finally boiling over, over and a city completely split down the middle. As I mentioned earlier, Memphis had seen this before, when the streets were once divided along the lines of North Memphis versus South Memphis, and in a city where the rap game and the streets had become almost indistinguishable, two powerful camps begun to form, with one orbiting around Dolph's PRE and the other around Yo Gotti's CMG. On the PRE side, the main force in the streets sliding for Dolph was Young Mob, one of the oldest and most feared gangs in the city, based out of the Walker homes in South Memphis. Their alleged leader, Stupid Duke, also known as Spooky Duke, had spent years locked up on serious charges, including attempted murder, but had finally been released in early 2021, touching down on the streets right as tensions in the city were about to erupt following Dolph's murder. And by his side was his right-hand man, the rapper BEO Lil Kenny, who had a strong personal bond with young Dolph, often crediting him in interviews for believing in him when no one else did.
This is why I liked the Dolph, bro, because even though I had pending cases going on. I had a bad rep in the street. I had hey man, don't fuck with Lil Kenny, you know what I'm saying? Hey, he gonna do something crazy. But Dolph still, you know what I'm saying? Hey, Lil Kenny, bro, you know I wanna mess with you, bro. You know I wanna bring you in, bro, you know what I'm saying? He like, bro, look, this is what we gonna do right here. Woo, 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 give me the rundown on that. And I'm like, cool, we gonna do that. And then a day or 2, 3, 4 days later, I get jammed up, you know what I'm saying, go to jail. But I just kind of respected that, even though everybody else was kind of like, man, I don't know if I want to mess with Lil Kenny. Lil Kenny got it going on. He got his buzz, he popping, he doing the music, you know what I'm saying? And he can actually do big things, but I don't just know where his mind is, you know what I'm saying? And I just kind of with that he was ready to take that chance on me, meaning he believed in me somewhere, you know what I'm saying?
Dolph had also signed Young Mob connected artists like Kenny Money to PRE, making the link between the label and the gang official. But beyond the straightforward alliance between PRE and Young Mob, the affiliations beyond that quickly became far more tangled, highlighting one of the defining traits of Memphis's underworld, a web of overlapping ties that even online communities are struggling to map out. On one hand, Young Mob and PRE were closely connected to the Double R gang, repped particularly by Pooh Shiesty's cousin Big Scar, who despite being signed to Gucci Mane, also maintained a close relationship with Young Dolph and PRE, but the connections between PRE, Young Mob, and Double R ran very deep even beyond Scar, as CEO Jizzle, another Double R rapper and a known shooter, is actually Young Dolph's blood cousin, while Kato 2 Times, also a rapper and shooter from Double R, is related to the Young Mob leader Stupid Duke. Then there's also Big Unk, a close Double R affiliate who is signed directly to PRE. But despite these deep connections, after Dolph's death, Double R found itself caught in the middle of an escalating war, because they also had strong ties to Pooh Shiesty's Chopper gang and their closest affiliates, Big 30's KSBG gang, a gang that according to later federal paperwork had turned into Young Mob's main enemy in the streets of Memphis. Now the reasons behind this rivalry are long and complicated, but one thing that definitely wasn't helping was that KSBG had grown increasingly close with Moneybagg Yo's BGE label, who had just signed both Big 30 and also his cousin and another KSBG rapper named Big Nooski. But the problem with that was that Moneybagg Yo wasn't cool with the Young Mob at all, because while he hailed from the Walker homes and was once deeply tied to the gang, they had had a complete fallout, with this being at least partially sparked by Moneybagg Yo collaborating with a rapper accused of killing a respected Young Mob member, something Stupid Duke would even reference in an interview before he was let out of prison.
What's really going on with you and Moneybagg?
Moneybagg crossed the line, you know, it's forever, he smoked for life, you know, he did a song with a dude, killed one of the homeboys, he got his face on the TV cover, all of them got his name tattooed on them, he just did some foul stuff that you can't never come back from, so, you know, it's smoke. It used to be Young Mom, and he did a song with a dude to kill Young Mom, so, you know, this forever, this something ain't gonna never stop. This is Lewis.
So was he Young Ma from the beginning?
Yeah, he was Young Mom from the beginning. He got it tatted on him. Yeah, he Young Mom. He from the neighborhood originally.
And to make matters worse, Moneybagg Yo himself had also early on aligned himself closely with Yo Gotti, Young Dolph's longtime rival, and had even signed to his CMG label. Now all of these conflicted loyalties would eventually split Double R right down the middle, with some members like Big Scar staying aligned with KSBG and Chopper Gang through his longtime friendships and even family connections with guys like Big 30 and Pooh Shiesty, while others, including CEO Jizzle and Kato 2 Times, leaned fully into their ties with Young Mob. And then in early 2022, shortly after Pooh Shiesty would plead guilty to federal conspiracy charges stemming from the 2 shooting incidents in Miami, another murder would take place that may well have ended up playing a key role in Shiesty's fallout with Gucci Mane. On the 28th of January 2022, the KSBG rappers Big 30 and his cousin Big Nooski had just finished performing at a local high school before Nooski would head back to the New Horizon apartments, the main headquarters of the KSBG. It would be then at around 7 PM that the police would respond to reports of multiple gunshots at the apartments, and upon arrival they would find Nooski, real name Kevion Bruce, in the parking lot, still seated in his car while suffering from fatal gunshot wounds. headlines.
Yeah, we come on at 9 with that breaking news. You're taking a live look from Whitehaven. Now, this is not the scene. You can see we've been pushed back from the perimeter, but police are on the scene of a shooting.
That's right, Daryl. I am at the New Horizon River Apartments in the 3000 block of Kazaza. Now, what we're being told is that police were dispatched here about an hour ago after getting a call about gunshots being fired in the area. Now, what we do know right now is that police are reporting that one male victim was shot here. Now, again, the victim did not survive his injuries.
Online, Newski's murder was later labeled as another case of sliding for Dolph. The reason for his murder supposedly being his close relationship with one of Dolph's alleged killers, the Trula Mafia member Straight Drop, with some online detectives attempting to prove their connection, noting how both had been posed in front of the same white Corvette. Now, it was true that Newski and Straight Drop were childhood friends, like so many of the youths from South Memphis, but in reality, the reason for Newski's murder was likely far more complex and had much more to do with his affiliation with KSBG in the streets and his affiliation with Moneybagg Yo's Bread Gang Entertainment in the rap game. This made him a major enemy of the young mob. Moreover, Newski also had a reputation in the streets of Memphis as a shooter too, which was seemingly confirmed by his cousin Big 30, who would rap in his August 2022 song Scared of Us that Newski had almost 9 bodies under his belt. In fact, according to online rumors, Newski had allegedly even had at least one shootout with a young mob where he had allegedly hit Stupid Duke personally with a leg shot. Now, following Newski's death, social media would fill up with tributes, with Newski's Bread Gang label head Moneybagg Yo changing his profile picture to Newski and writing on his stories how he has got his back forever, while Pooh Shiesty 2 would later pay tribute to Newski from behind bars in his December 2023 song Federal Contraband 2, which was recorded through the jail phone, with Shiesty mentioning several of his beloved friends who had passed away, including OG Lump, Rico, 2-3, Trey Day, and Newski, saying how they all lived through him. But meanwhile, Newski's ops were rejoicing. In July 2022, the young mob leader Stupid Duke dropped a track called He Got Hit, where he would constantly repeat the line, "He got hit like I got hit, but he ain't effing breathing," with the implication seemingly being that young mob had indeed killed Newski as a get back for shooting Duke. And just in case that line wasn't clear enough, Duke would even go further, claiming his young mob shooters had been sliding through the Kinggate apartments, now known as New Horizon, the very complex where Newski was killed. And this message didn't go unnoticed by the listeners, with many taking it as a literal confession to the murder. But Duke would continue dissing Newski through music, and also bringing in the Double R rapper CEO Jizzle in their April 2023 song Rewind, which was released together with a music video that starts with a very specific message from Duke, who says that if you mess with young mob, your body will be found in a car, just like Newski was.
Yeah, we can't make this up, man. YML, man, double up, man. Yeah, you found dead in your car, man.
Murder, no count.
All type of murder, manipulation, everything with all this.
In his verse, Duke would also rap about someone dying on CEO Jizzle's birthday, so they threw him a party. Jizzle's birthday just happening to be January the 28th, the very day that Newski was killed. But Newski's death didn't just escalate tensions in the streets, it would also surprisingly seem to strain and ultimately fracture the relationship between Moneybagg Yo and Big 30. Their beef would eventually go highly public after Moneybagg Yo would release a diss song titled Airball in May 2024. This caused Big 30 to go all in on Moneybagg Yo on social media, claiming that he had come to KSBG for protection whilst he was being extorted by the young mob, even suggesting that Newski's death was a direct result of Moneybagg's beef with them. And to make matters worse, apparently Moneybagg Yo hadn't even shown up at Newski's funeral. This beef would eventually cause Big 30 to leave Moneybagg's Bread Gang label.
And for you putting out this project now, you're independent now, right?
I'm signed to Endless Entertainment.
Okay, so you are still signed.
Yeah.
See, you said you was independent. You said you wasn't signed.
No, I never told you that.
Okay, oh no, you just not signed to Moneybagg Yo anymore.
Yeah.
How did you get out of that deal?
Oh man, how you pay the money, sign the contract.
Okay.
After that,
so you paid to get out of it?
Yeah, it got paid. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And a few months after Newski's murder in April 2022, Pooh Shiesty would finally be sentenced to 63 months, or 5 years and 3 months, in federal prison, bringing his rocket-like rise to the top of the rap game to a sudden halt. Meanwhile, in the streets of Memphis, the war would continue, and already the following month, Big 30's KSBG gang would experience another tragic loss, when 30-year-old Jasper Strickland, better known as KSBG rapper Cheese Dollar, was gunned down in the parking lot of a McDonald's in his hometown by 2 shooters, who would later turn out to be members of the young mob. At the end of 2022, Pooh Shiesty would also experience a major personal loss, as his cousin and the Double R rapper Big Scar would pass away suddenly from an accidental drug overdose. But besides having to mourn the loss of his beloved cousin, which was hard enough as the two had apparently not been on the best terms at the time, something Shiesty would reveal in his Federal Contraband 2 song, there would also be another major controversy in the aftermath of Scar's death that would upset Shiesty personally, as Scar's close friend and sister would go on social media claiming that Gucci Mane had actually promised to pay for the funeral because Scar was still signed to 1017 at the time of his death. But according to the friend and sister, Gucci Mane would later back out and even demanded Scar's family to return his 1017 chains back to him. However, after this, Gucci Mane's wife, Keisha Kaur, would attempt to debunk these claims, actually posting receipts showing that Gucci had indeed paid $20,000 towards the funeral costs. But that only seemed to upset Scar's sister even more, and she would push back, saying that Gucci had only paid for a bunch of flowers while the funeral itself cost around $60,000, before adding that they were definitely planning on keeping Scar's 1017 chains.
That 10K ain't did about obituaries and flowers, boo. This ain't here with no obituaries and flowers, boo. 10K ain't. My brother was way more worth, baby. My brother worth more than 10K. Yeah, Gucci's son 10,000, and it was somebody else on another 10. So it was 20,000 in all. And we didn't get the flowers. I don't give a what nobody say. Like, the money don't even matter. You asking for the chains back. But anyway, the funeral gonna get paid for regardless. That little ass money, that's why we say he ain't help us. I'm gonna talk about that BMW posting receipts, none of this shit. Yeah, he's son 10,000.
Scar's father, on the other hand, would later come out with a completely different opinion, actually thanking Gucci Mane and Atlantic Records for everything they had done for his son.
First of all, I got to send shouts out to Atlantic Records, man. They gave my son a big boy chance. Gucci. I got to send shouts out to Gucci too, y'all. Y'all might not like it, but I got to give my boy what he did, man. He gave my son a major chance, man. You know, I can't let y'all throw dude under the bus like that. Come on now. The truth is the truth, man. The truth is the truth. I gave nobody permission to do that. I'm the one ain't looking for nothing. I just want what rightfully belongs to my son. I ain't asking for nothing else. I don't want nothing else.
Now, it's hard to know exactly what Pooh Shiesty thought about all of this drama at the time between his cousin and the boss of his label, but what became clear in the aftermath of Scar's death was that he had been one of the only remaining links between the RR, KSBG, and Chopper Gang's alliance. So now, with Scar gone, it seemed like the remaining RR members, led by rappers like CEO Jizzle and Kato 2 Times, would position themselves entirely on Young Mob's side. This is yet another matter where Gucci Mane comes up too, because as the 1017 label's website still shows, Kato was actually signed to Gucci Mane's label at the time of all of this going down, with this likely being something that Pooh Shiesty wasn't very happy about from behind bars, especially considering what happened next, because already a few months later, in February 2023, KSBG would lose yet another member to the streets. As a 15-year-old member, LaCorian Smith, aka JR Splat, would end up being shot and killed in South Memphis by an unknown assailant who opened fire towards a group of people gathered in front of a house. According to a neighbor who witnessed the shooting, the killer was moving with purpose, as if he knew the exact target he was looking for. And this is where things would get particularly tricky, because following JR Splat's murder, it was particularly the Young Mob affiliated RR rappers that would seem to diss him the most in their music, with CEO Jizzle and Kato 2 Times dropping a song titled Step Brothers 2 only a few months later, where Kato rapped in the chorus how he drops another song every time an op dies, while Jizzle would mention in his verse how his ops can't even afford a tombstone and that he will chase his ops to their homes. These lyrics seem to fit JR Splat's murder to a T, and there would be a public funeral fund started for him after his death, with it being confirmed that he was indeed seemingly killed in front of his home. Jizzle would also mention how his op had lived a short life, a very sad reference to the fact that Splat was only 15 when he was killed. Perhaps as a response to all the KSBG members getting killed, members of KSBG and Chopper Gang would seemingly decide to start a new clique or alliance around this time, naming it CMO, or Certified Members Only, with Big 30 seemingly framing this alliance as something like a Memphis version of the infamous O-Block Get Back Gang, as he would also begin to rep a new set of letters, PS4N, that apparently stood for Punish for Newski. Others would also seemingly confirm on social media that CMO was indeed primarily KSBG and CGE members, aka the Chopper Gang Alliance, but it also included members from other gangs, including somewhat surprisingly also seemingly some North Memphis based gangs like Fam Mob and the Fast Cash Boys, who have had close ties with Yo Gotti's CMG label while also having their own beef with Young Mob that goes years back. Meanwhile, in early July 2023, Young Mob would get a major reinforcement as one of the gang's alleged founders, BEO Lil Kenny, was released from prison after being gone for over 4 years. He would apparently hit the ground running and pick up the rap career that he had started before his prison stint, with Kenny dropping a track and music video titled First Day Out, which would end up going semi-viral, now having over 2 million views on YouTube. With Kenny's rap career now gaining some serious momentum, he would soon get a major co-sign, as he would release a song with none other than Pooh Shiesty's label head, Gucci Mane, who would hop on Kenny's track titled Too Much, even shooting a music video with Kenny in Walker Homes, surrounded by numerous young mob members, including the alleged leader, Stupid Duke, while Gucci would even give the entire young mob a shout out in his verse. So given the war that was raging on between the young mob and the newly formed CMO alliance, it's safe to assume that neither Big 30 or Pooh Shiesty were feeling Gucci Mane pulling up and collaborating with the ops. But then, things were about to get even worse, because already the following month, on the 26th of October 2023, yet another prominent KSBG member would be killed, as 28-year-old Cortez Wallace, aka Big Grape, was shot at a gas station in the Whitehaven neighborhood. Years later, paperwork was posted online from an alleged federal investigation against the young mob, which alleged that an informant had told an investigator on the 27th of October 2023 about a homicide that a young mob member called Mitch had allegedly committed recently. The timing of this matched eerily closely with the murder of Big Grape that had taken place just the previous day. But at the bottom of the document, there would be the most explosive part, as the informant would tell how Mitch was attempting to rent a car so that he could drive to Nashville to receive a payment for the homicide from none other than Lil Kenny, meaning that the person who Gucci Mane had just done a feature with would allegedly the following month pay for a murder targeting one of Big 30 and Pooh Shiesty's friends. But this time, the get back against young mob would allegedly happen in record speed, and already later the same day that Big Grape had been killed, popular young mob rapper Big Motor was also gunned down in a drive-by shooting where another car would pull up next to Motor's car in traffic and someone inside would open fire, causing Motor to crash.
Fans and friends say Big Motor's music was making a name for the artist in the hip-hop community, and they call what happened to him yet another tragic shooting involving a Memphis rapper.
Ain't nothing I can say bad about him, but in this city, man, you get some type of shine on you, man, they gonna hate on you, and somebody gonna come at you some kind of way, one way or another.
Right now, police are still trying to figure out what led up to the shooting and find the person responsible, as neighbors remain on alert.
Then finally, in July 2024, Young Mob's campaign of terror would at least come to a temporary end, as the feds would announce that they had indicted 15 people on drug trafficking and firearm charges. The original indictment named 8 alleged Young Mob members and affiliates, including also Stupid Duke, aka Brian Lackland, but notably BEO Lil Kenny would be absent from the list. And 1 year later, in July 2025, the feds would announce that they were charging Stupid Duke and the 7 other Young Mob members with a RICO in addition to all of these crimes. But according to court paperwork related to these charges, in March 2024, Stupid Duke had been casually having a phone call with one of his hitters who told Duke that members of Pooh Shiesty's chopper gang were hanging out on a street corner. Essentially, he was asking Duke's permission to slide on them, to which Duke appeared to agree, causing the police to send officers to the location before anything could happen. This pretty much showed that for Young Mob, members from the KSBG and chopper gang were essentially one and the same, and it didn't matter which set the victim came from, they just wanted to catch anyone. And on Reddit, people would also point out how Double R's CEO Jizzle had begun openly dissing chopper gang, making it pretty clear which side of the war Pooh Shiesty was likely to align with when he got out of the feds.
In the club screaming out Stash Squad, you know the got beat by the whole mob.
So on October 2025, the day would finally come when Pooh Shiesty was released from federal prison, getting out early after being locked up for about 4 years, with time served and good behavior helping him shorten his sentence. Shiesty would lay low for a few months, but in December he would come out with a banger, releasing the song and music video for the track FDO, or First Day Out, another certified hit where Pooh Shiesty sounded like he was back like he never left. The track would be bar after bar of pure confidence, bravado and braggery, with him opening the track by seemingly addressing anyone who had doubted his ability to climb right back to the top of the rap game. It also didn't take long for Pooh Shiesty to start dropping bars that sounded rather self-incriminatory, as he would rap how he hasn't shot anyone in like 4 years, which actually matches up the timeline from the strip club shooting, and then adding how he hasn't sent a hit in 3 years, the implication that he had actually sent at least one hit from within the prison walls. But the only question being, was he referring to a hit inside or outside of the prison? He would also take the moment to remind fans that nobody is as shiesty and as slimy as him, echoing Lil Durk's line from their hit song Back in Blood, where Durk had seemingly tried to claim the title of the most shiesty from Pooh. Pooh would also acknowledge the war that had been going on in his hometown while he'd been away, saying how following it from the sidelines had driven him crazy, before delivering the song's perhaps most iconic line, which would later end up being very ironic after the events that unfolded after, as Pooh would rap how he's unfortunately both the CEO and the top shooter for his gang, meaning that he can't just focus on music and making money through music. Even at this point in his career, he still sees himself as carrying the responsibility of putting points on the scoreboard in the gang war, perhaps even implying that the KSBG and chopper gang side actually genuinely needed his sliding skills during the war while he was locked up. This This would be followed by another very telling bar as Pooh Shiesty would shout out none other than Yo Gotti, this being a kind of subtle diss that threw shade in multiple directions, in a way kind of putting down Young Dolph's paper route empire and their alleged muscle in the streets of Memphis, Young Mob, pretty much shouting out their biggest op. But also perhaps towards Gucci Mane, because he had a years-long beef with Yo Gotti too, so for his artist to be shouting out Yo Gotti on the track kind of shows that he's not respecting his OG. Shiesty would also drop a line that almost foreshadows his downfall that was soon to come, rapping about signing his deal and getting locked up soon after, suggesting that he never even got the chance to see if the deal with Gucci actually benefited him. There were also numerous instances of Shiesty rapping about prison and using the associated slang, showing just how institutionalized he still was at this point, with one lyric making some people a little bit confused because it kind of sounded like Shiesty was just randomly dissing Lil Wayne, as he would rap how he has guys in the feds smoking Lil Wayne. However, in reality, this was actually a play on words, because Lil Wayne's nickname is Tunchi, and apparently in prison, smoking Tunchi refers to smoking K2 or spice, the so-called synthetic marijuana. Interestingly though, a few months after the release of Pooh Shiesty's FDO, none other than the Young Mob rapper Lil Kenny would end up releasing a new song of his own titled Meep Meep, where he would seemingly reference these lyrics and using it as an opportunity to diss Pooh's fallen member Big Nooski, with this seemingly showing that even though Shiesty was out, the Young Mob was still coming after him and the Chopper Gang, also implying that Stupid Duke, who was indeed still in the feds, might well have had something to do with Nooski's murder. Now, it had taken a few months for Shiesty to drop his first song after getting out of the feds, likely in part because of the intense pressure that comes after a rapper gets released from prison these days, because fans are pretty much just constantly calling the rapper washed if he doesn't come back with a multi-million view hit immediately. But Pooh Shiesty definitely didn't have that problem, and even after the long wait, as soon as FDO was released, it went absolutely crazy. It hit #1 on Billboard's Hot R&B Hip Hop Songs charts, and the music video today has now over 50 million views on YouTube. This was pretty much the best outcome Shiesty could have possibly hoped for his fresh home song. It showed that even after all of these years being away, he was still respected in the rap game, and he was able to pick up right where he left off at the very top of the industry. But the problem was that just as Shiesty himself had mentioned in the song, he'd barely had the time to realize just how popular he was, and the deal that he had signed with Gucci Mane was probably done during a time when Shiesty's career wasn't looking as bright as it was in 2025. But let's not forget, he actually signed his deal before Back in Blood had even released. Now, of course, we don't know the specifics of Pooh Shiesty's deal with Gucci Mane, but it's safe to assume that just on the timing, it likely wasn't a deal that one of the most top 5 popular rappers out right now would be deserving of. But even beyond issues with money, whether or not Gucci Mane had realized it, he had actually done some major acts of disrespect towards Shiesty and his friends like Big 30, because releasing a song with BEO Lil Kenny while Young Mob were openly claiming the murder of Big 30's cousin Nooski was just straight unforgivable disrespect, and that wasn't all. Gucci signing the RR rapper KO 2 times while he was still in the middle of a war against KSBG and Chopper Gang, as well as openly rapping about murders of KSBG members in his songs, would be yet another unforgivable stroke of disrespect from Gucci Mane to Pooh Shiesty that he probably never would have been able to recover from. And so coming into 2026, it seems like all of these issues playing out in the background ultimately culminated into perhaps the biggest and baddest crash out of Pooh Shiesty's entire career. On the 10th of January 2026, Gucci Mane and his team flew to Dallas to meet with Pooh Shiesty and his camp to discuss Shiesty's contract with Gucci's 1017 label. According to a later criminal complaint, Shiesty at this point was unhappy with the terms of his deal, but to be fair, the document doesn't specify the source of this claim, which would suggest that it likely came from someone closely involved in the negotiations that actually led up to the meeting. But anywho, Gucci and his crew arrived at the studio around 1:45 PM, but found out it was still closed, so they would leave to buy some alcohol. About an hour later, at 2:53 PM, Pooh Shiesty's father reached out to the studio owner attempting to book a session for Shiesty and Big 30, and soon after, around 3:15 PM, Gucci and his team were finally let inside the studio. Just minutes later, surveillance cameras caught Shiesty's father outside the building pacing around on his phone, and a couple of minutes later, at around 3:39 PM, a studio employee arrived and saw Shiesty Sr. and Jr. at the back door of the building engaged in what appeared to be a heated argument on the phone. Shortly after this, surveillance cameras captured Shiesty, his father, and his entourage entering the studio. Their entourage included Rodney Wright, aka Big 30, Corday Johnson, aka Baby Slime, Kadarius Waters, aka KD, and Terrence Rogers, aka CMO Damn Fool, DeMarcus Glover, aka CMO Twin, and Darian McDaniel, aka Glizzy, while the last of them, Demarion Gibson, aka Mookie Rowe, would briefly return to a vehicle before coming back carrying a bag slung over his shoulder, this bag likely holding a bunch of guns that this crew of gangsters would later make use of. Inside the studio, Gucci and his crew were watching a football game, with one security guard positioned inside with them, while another remained in the car monitoring the studio from outside. Shortly after arriving, Shiesty took a phone call seemingly with his parole officer, telling them that he thought that his caseworker had approved for him to be outside for rec time. However, according to the victims, Shiesty was told that that wasn't the case, and he would need to return to his house arrest address immediately. It would be around this moment that the victims noticed he was wearing an ankle monitor, indicating that he was indeed on house arrest while this was going on, with Gucci allegedly suggesting that they reschedule the session for a time when it would be approved. But instead, Pooh Shiesty asked to speak with Gucci privately in the recording room, which Gucci actually agreed to, proceeding to enter the room with Shiesty, his father, and Big 30, while the rest of the people remained outside in the control room, continuing to watch the football game. Inside the recording room, Pooh Shiesty would allegedly produce paperwork apparently intended to release him from his contract with Gucci's label before telling Gucci to sign it. But unsurprisingly, Gucci said no. This allegedly agitated Shiesty as tensions visibly escalated, with one member of Gucci's team watching the situation unfold through the glass window between the recording and the control rooms. At one point, they realized that things were starting to go left, and they texted one of the guards in the lobby. Meanwhile, as things kept escalating inside the recording room, Shiesty would tell Big 30 to go get his bag, and after he returned, Shiesty would allegedly proceed to pull out a Draco-style gun from the bag, pointing it straight at Gucci, demanding that he signed the label release. Later on, this incident had fans clowning the irony, pointing out that Pooh Shiesty had just rapped about this exact kind of situation on the FDO song, and it seems that at this point Gucci realized that this was a full-on Crashout in motion and that he was fully outnumbered and outgunned. He would proceed to sign the papers, seemingly being the only one in this exchange who understood that this was in fact real life and not a Tarantino movie. The masterful plan would continue, with Big 30 allegedly pulling out a phone in order to film this crime, apparently recording Gucci signing the document while also directing him to say how he had released Shiesty from his contractual obligations. Now, the absurdity of this situation became even more clear as Shiesty then allegedly proceeded to tell Gucci to hand over his cash, his watch, and even his earrings and wedding ring. And after this, Shiesty would turn out to the other mastermind Crashout in the room, the sensei who had seemingly taught him everything about being a brain-dead Shiesty Crashout, Pooh Shiesty Sr., with him presenting this paperwork signed under duress and asking if everything looked like it was in order, to which Sr. would note that the date was still needed next to the signature to make the paperwork bulletproof. Following the successful signing ceremony, Shiesty and the others would exit the recording room, and that's when his entourage seemingly decided that it was now their turn to get paid too, as they all produced guns and begun demanding expensive items from Gucci's crew. During the stick-up, one of Shiesty's goons, Glizzy, aka Glizzy375, would allegedly repeatedly threaten to shoot one of Gucci's crew members, this allegedly being a person named Brandon Putnam, aka BPEA, aka BP, who is apparently a private chef and longtime friend of Gucci's, who seemingly acted even as his best man during his wedding with Key Shakur. Thankfully, Pooh Shiesty, as the brains of this operation, he would then tell Glizzy to chill, and there was really no need to escalate the situation more. But apparently, seemingly mad that he couldn't add an easy hack to his catalogue, Glizzy, or one of the other masterminds from Shiesty's entourage, would then proceed to choke another one of Gucci's associates to the point of almost passing out unconscious. That victim was allegedly Gucci's photographer, Matthew Marshall, and he would end up being robbed of a Rolex watch, a Louis Vuitton bag that contained multiple other high-value watches, as well as his Apple AirPods and his wallet. Now, this is done for so many reasons, but like AirPods got a tracker in it. You guys just... Now, the cherry on top of all this was the fact that most of these items were actually equipped with Apple AirTags, making it easy for anyone to trace where exactly they were taken. So as the altercation inside the room escalated, some of Gucci's crew even attempted to leave, but their way was blocked by Big 30, whose role in this heist seemed to be reduced to simply acting as a human barricade to the door so no one could get out. Now, at this point, Gucci's two security guards would attempt to enter the room guarded by Big 30, managing to only partially open the door, quickly realizing that they were outnumbered and outgunned. One of Gucci's crew members then reportedly saw Gucci being pushed onto a couch in the control room, leading the victims to believe they were about to be executed. But instead, Shiesty placed a gun to BP's head and ordered both him and Gucci to leave through the west exit, instructing Gucci's security to escort them to their vehicle. So at around 4:48 PM, just about an hour after arriving at the studio, Shiesty and his entourage would then get out of the studio through the east exit, with security cameras outside the building capturing their vehicles used in the escape. Following this incident, it would only take about a week before rumors about it happening began surfacing online in great detail, showing that the information likely came directly from someone who had been present. There would even be leaks of supposed security camera footage showing Gucci being held by a man wearing a ski mask, but it seems pretty obvious that that was just AI. However, it seems that originally most people thought these were just rumors and just a bunch of lies, with Gucci himself briefly trying to finesse these claims that his wedding ring had been stolen by posting a picture of himself, apparently taken before the robbery, where it was visible. Now, at the time, Adam22 from No Jumper would say during a podcast with Wack 100 that he had heard this rumor from multiple Memphis insiders, with both Wack and Adam agreeing that it would be incredibly idiotic for Shiesty to try and pull something like this just after getting out of federal prison and on an ankle monitor, while also questioning which side would even have the motive to put this rumor out there in the first place.
There's crazy rumors going on in the streets.
About what?
And I feel like people are scared to report on this. It's starting to really trickle out.
Don't go there.
Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane.
Oh yeah, he signed Pooh Shiesty before
yes,
5-6 years ago.
Okay. Now, I don't want to tell you what I'm about to tell you, but I've had multiple Memphis insiders tap in with me, not Stan G.
You ain't had no multiple fucking go man.
I have. And I don't need that either because a lot of other people have been tapping in about it. But the story that's going around that everybody's scared to report on, and this is just a rumor, is that basically Pooh Shiesty and Choppa Gang ran down on Gucci Mane, relieved him of some of his possessions, and basically forced him to sign a contract releasing Pooh Shiesty from 1017, the label.
I think it's because why would Pooh Shiesty's, we haven't heard Gucci Mane mention any of this, and why would Pooh Shiesty's team put that out when this is identical to the same type of case, controlling case, he just did time in the feds on?
And I agree. That sounds insane to get out of doing 4 years in the feds and then immediately do something that would basically get you right back in the feds.
No, that's not insane. Insane is your team putting that out there in the streets.
But nobody's putting it out there. This is just
somebody had to put it out there.
Listen, loose lips sink ships. I've just been hearing about it. I'm guessing that they're probably trying to not have it be out there because nobody wants to see Pooh go back to the feds.
Now, Hernandez Govan, aka Bet with Quet, who was accused but acquitted of masterminding the Young Dolph murder, would even claim that Yo Gotti had in fact now officially signed Pooh Shiesty, dissing Gucci Mane for allegedly only signing Memphis artists because of his beef with Yo Gotti.
Hey, I don't know who need to hear this, man, but no, I'm lying. Hey, Gucci Mane, LaFleur, you went and signed 100 from Memphis, Tennessee to try to antagonize Gotti all because he your wife. Then you dropped them little and killed Pooh and not Gotti done took Pooh Shiesty from you. How I feel to have a Memphis man take your wife and your #1 artist? You gotta tighten up, Gucci. All that goofy shit you were doing. Signing 100 from Memphis, Tennessee, you ain't never heard the mixtape. Just signing and trying to antagonize them. And you know we know about the other little shit that just happened too. Yeah, we're gonna run that later on though, Gucci. Real shiesty around here, I see. Hey, y'all pray for Gucci. Hey, Gucci LaFleur, you know I grew up around my granddad and them, bro. They say when you get married, man, you're supposed to always keep your wedding ring on. Always keep your Damn, my bad, Gucci. You don't know where yours is.
But meanwhile, Pooh Shiesty carried on rapping as if nothing had happened. If anything, he seemed even more reckless. He would post on Instagram in February that he had more bodies than any other rapper except maybe Lil Boosie. And he would also be flexing his wealth, boasting to fans how it was his goal to buy an $11 million compound for his family in Texas. Clips would also resurface showing Shiesty casually lying to his probation officer, saying that he was in home, when in reality he was actually moving around the city and appearing on live streams, just showing how little Shiesty had seemingly learned from his long prison stint.
Yeah, Latrell Williams, yeah, I'm at the house.
But at the beginning of April, he was about to be reminded once again, as the feds would announce that Shiesty, his father, Big 30, and all of the other members of the entourage during the alleged robbery kidnapping had been indicted by the Northern District of Texas.
This week, 9 individuals, including well-known musical artists, kidnapped and robbed at gunpoint numerous victims at a music studio in Dallas, Texas. 8 of the 9 were arrested yesterday in Dallas, Memphis, and Nashville. These individuals who are charged and arrested include Lontrell Williams Jr., also known as Pooh Shiesty, Lontrell Williams Sr., Rodney Wright Jr., also known as Big 30, Kadarius Waters, Demarion Gibson, DeMarcus Glover, Corday Johnson, Darian McDaniel, and Terrence Rogers has not been arrested yet, but will be soon.
During this initial press conference, the feds would not reveal the identities of any of the victims.
Specific to who these victims are and a specific location of this studio that you were talking about?
I'll answer the last part first. Yes, it'll be in the complaint, and we're happy to get you a copy of that. It's now unsealed. It was off Dallas Parkway in Dallas, Texas, a music studio. That's what's identified in the complaint. As far as victims go, we won't get into at this time who the victims are or not.
However, as the unsealed criminal complaint made its way to social media, it didn't take long for people to put two and two together and realize that the rumored incident with Gucci Mane, or Radrick Davis, RD, had indeed taken place. Following the Fed's announcement, hip-hop media went into a frenzy, with two main topics quickly dominating the conversation. The first one being, why would Pooh Shiesty do something so stupid given that he had just spent over 4 years behind bars and just gone #1 on the hip-hop charts?
Pooh Shiesty, you gotta be one of the most stupidest I've ever seen in my life, brother.
So, like, what the fuck are you thinking?
Yeah, why would he do that? It's hard to wrap your head around.
Who's on the internet testifying against themselves?
Yeah.
I've never seen this level of this level of stupidity is crazy, bro. It need to be documented.
Also, this was the worst kept secret.
Fam, the minute this happened, I just knew about it. I knew. Immediately.
I didn't know. Who knew?
I found out from Ice.
Me too.
But the second topic, especially for many older fans, was the more important one. Had Big Goo Wop really bit the cheese and cooperated with the feds and become a full-blown snitch?
Won't snitch on. We stand down for ourselves. Like, if I gotta go, I'm gonna go. I done went before. I don't want to snitch on to save my nobody's life, not even my own. I die. If I snitch on, that's on my mama.
Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. It says Gucci Mane did the identifying, bro. So I don't know if y'all want to, don't get mad at me. I ain't write this up. It says the white cameraman and Radrick Davis described Shiesty as wearing. Now maybe this, which I don't know what's snitching or what's not. If they're like, nah, was just wearing a Shiesty, and then the police pinned that on Shiesty, did Gucci snitch? Or maybe Gucci just said, nah, Shiesty was wearing a Shiesty.
I'm about to break it down for you. No, it's different. Now it's moving the goalpost. No, it's different. He's a businessman. Let me break this down.
I want to stay low up, and I never will.
A word?
I'm a true G.
A true G. Now, what? Exhibit B. Exhibit B.
Yeah, I ain't gonna tell nobody, not even the police. I don't believe in none of that shit.
Oh, you don't believe that?
The only thing I believe in is don't tell the police.
That ain't age well at all.
You don't believe in that?
And it sound like Gucci cooperated. It sound like the victim. Gucci was a victim and gave his testimony. Come on over here with me, Gucci. It's all right. It's all right to go and be civilian. Yeah. Come on. Yeah, this ain't that ain't yeah. Come on over here with me, Gucci. Press charges on they to the full extent of the law. That's how you get to. Now, I don't hear nobody telling Gucci not to press charges like they tell him, trying to convince me not to press charges on Thug. I don't hear nobody calling Gucci for pressing charges.
I'm not even surprised because Snitch 9 and made it so popular and
you think Gucci Mane is influenced by 6ix9ine?
1000%. To me, my person, because he
1000%.
1000%. For the simple fact is, when a lot of rappers and a lot of these street dudes, once they seen Snitch 9 come out and do that, and he's still accepting, and he still do numbers, and he's still able to make money. Back in the day, that was unheard of.
It hit different from Gucci doing it, I ain't gonna lie.
Now, those who had argued that Gucci hadn't necessarily snitched were pointing in particular to the fact that one of his security guards was reportedly an off-duty police officer, and under the law, officers are typically required to report crimes that they witness, whether they're on duty or not. But the original complaint also had very little clear proof that it had indeed been Gucci who had been giving any incriminating statements, with one of the only lines referring to Gucci identifying the clothes that Shiesty had been wearing. But not long after the news about the incident had hit the internet, Whack 100 would come out with a new explosive revelation, exposing that Pooh Shiesty's father had allegedly cooperated with the police all the way back in 2009, while doing his plea agreement regarding the numerous legal troubles that he had run into back then. As one of the stipulations of Shiesty Sr.'s agreement was that he would provide substantial assistance to the state, including complete and truthful information which assists in the investigation or prosecution of other individuals. However, the situation surrounding Gucci's cooperation was also about to become a lot clearer, when on April the 8th, during Pooh Shiesty's court hearing, an FBI agent testified that Gucci Mane had in fact given a statement to Dallas police about the alleged kidnapping and robbery. This was a revelation that, according to journalist Bryson Paul, had prompted Pooh Shiesty to shake his head in disbelief in the courtroom. But this was only the beginning when it came to Gucci providing statements, because the following day, Gucci Mane would put out a new song titled Crash Dummy, which provided over 3 minutes of him giving nothing but uninterrupted statements about exactly how the incident went down in question. He would flow over a classic Zaytoven beat and delivered some iconic lines, starting the song out saying how Shiesty really went out like a crash dummy and that he was still signed to Gucci Mane after all of that, before he would also give a bonus diss to Big 30 calling him a junkie and a fat flunky, and then Gucci would also break down all the events of the day like he was still giving a statement to the feds, before even throwing shade at Pooh Shiesty's father and then delivering one of the best lines of the track, putting it on wax that the paperwork that he was allegedly made to sign at gunpoint was in fact done under duress. The classic Gucci style unintended humor of the line even drew a reaction from his former friend Waka Flocka.
Put the ink to the paper, I was under duress.
But seriously though, while I'm making this video, it is still kind of too early to say exactly what's going to happen with this case. Now, Shiesty's legal team so far are arguing somewhat convincingly that the case is far weaker than the feds initially made it seem, pointing to a lack of material evidence and claiming that it rests on little more than uncorroborated testimony.
So we had a bond hearing today and a PC hearing today. I think that the relevant things that were said today that I thought were fascinating were that it took 3 months to build a case. And I think the reason for that was because the statements that were given on the evening that this occurred were very questionable. I think the way that the statements were made, what allegedly was witnessed and what wasn't witnessed, I think gave great pause to the FBI. The FBI doesn't take 3 months to arrest someone if they believe everything that was said on the night that it occurred. What we didn't hear today is there is no contract, this mystery contract. They have no contract. They have no video of this alleged signing of a contract. They have no guns. They have no jewelry. They have none of that physical evidence.
Now, you know me, I'm not from the streets. I don't care about any of the so-called street rules, and I couldn't give a damn about whether Gucci Mane actually snitched or not. But will he actually step into the witness booth and give a statement if this thing goes to trial? I find that pretty hard to believe. But no doubt, it is fair to say that the 46-year-old Gucci Mane you see today, the husband, family man, multi-millionaire business mogul, is really not the same person that Gucci Mane was back in the 2000s and early 2010s that we all fell in love with. That Gucci made some great music, and also he would have never ever wrote a statement or snitched. Now, had Pooh Shiesty pulled something like this with the old Gucci, he might have got away with it for a bit, but he might have then found himself buried in the woods behind some middle school like Jeezy's friend Pookie Loke, the last person that tried Gucci. But let's not forget, that Gucci Mane was also suffering from a crippling drug addiction and mental health problems. He famously slipped into a full-blown drug-induced psychosis that arguably landed him in prison for several years, where he would eventually end up doing the hard work, getting sober, and becoming a completely different man that we see today. But that's exactly why Pooh Shiesty's latest Crashout feels so disappointing and embarrassing. Just a few months ago, during his XXL interview in December 2025, Pooh Shiesty still had positive things to say about Gucci Mane, explaining how he had been inspired by the way Gucci turned his life around after getting out of prison in 2016. He would also say that Gucci reminded him how he was still much younger than Gucci was at the time that he went in, making him realize that he still had his whole life ahead of him as long as he stayed on the right path.
The way Gucci came home and like, they motivated me too, because like, you know, I took notes from there, like how he switched it up, how he toned up, you know, got fit, got his mind healthy, like took notes in there every way, so they motivated me to move how I'm moving like towards today too. So like he showed that it can be done, like all you gotta do is want it. You got sobered up, you know what I'm saying? We got a lot of the similar traits because I realized that he woke up when he was in there, you know what I'm saying? Like he really woke up and he wasn't just in there playing or, you know, not taking it serious. Another thing he told me too was like, Shiesty, you 20 years old going to go see what I saw at 35 years old. You know, you got a head start as long as you got this out the way first, you know. Fortunately, it had to happen, but it happened, bro. It is what it is, so you got to get this out the way early.
For almost exactly 1 month after the release of that interview, Pooh Shiesty would go back on everything he had said in the interview and pretty much just regress back to the time before his federal stint, showing that unlike Gucci Mane, he had seemingly learned nothing from his time behind bars. So look, I don't know what's going to happen with Pooh Shiesty. We're going to have to wait and see. But in my opinion, regardless of how this turns out, this is indeed one of the most iconic and idiotic crash outs in the rap history that we have ever witnessed. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.